Hey, this is OXDF, and today we're looking at CVE 2024-23897. It's a remote code execution vulnerability in Jenkins, but really it's an arbitrary file read, and it's kind of a partial file read. But because of the way you can read files in Jenkins, it leads to remote code execution. And so we're going to play with it. We're going to dig into it a bunch of different ways. First, we're going to look at the vulnerability announcement from Jenkins itself. It's actually a pretty good write-up. We're going to play with manually do it. We're going to show a Python proof of concept script I found on GitHub. We're going to make sure we understand that Python script. And then we're going to see that it doesn't really add anything over the just doing it manually. And then we're going to walk through and figure out like how do we optimize it. And there's an interesting rabbit hole in here where I still have some bash behavior I can't explain. So I'm interested if anyone can solve that for me and tell me what I'm doing wrong there. And at the end, we're going to have something that can read multiple lines out of a file. So should be some fun. Let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to start by looking at this page right here. It is, I'll have a link in the description, but it's the Jenkins advisory itself. And you can see it's arbitrary file read vulnerability through CLI can lead to RCE. That's a perfectly good way. That's a great way to say it. Basically, you can see it's in the command line interface. And specifically what they say here is the command parser is a feature that replaces the @ sign followed by a file path in an argument with the file's contents. And obviously you can start to see how that might be a problem, because if we can give it, the file contents are probably going to cause an error. And then if it spits back some of that as the response, we'll show it in just a minute, right? But that's clearly the problem. We can look at the CLI real quick. If you go over here, and one thing I thought was interesting here, there's a section called downloading the client, and they specifically tell you this path right here on the client. You go to your Jenkins instance and you download this jar file. And so then you run a jar file, which communicates with Jenkins, which is a Java app. And so there's gonna be some kind of serialized Java communication going on there. That would make sense. And that's it. We'll play with it. If we go on here a little bit, let's see. They show us somewhere in here. They show us, we're gonna run Java jar, Java jar, the jar itself, the URL, and then there's different commands we can give it, and we'll play with that. Let's take a look now at this POC I found on GitHub, right here. And, people always ask me, do you need to be able to program to be successful in cybersecurity? I love programming. I do it all the time. But no, the answer is no, you don't have to be able to program. And some people don't like programming. They just want to use other tools that are already created, and that is totally fine. What you do need to be able to do is pick up something like this, which has 60 lines of code, the first almost 20 of which is kind of just boilerplate imports. You need to be able to read through this and understand what it's doing and get some feel for what's going on. Because that kind of skill will prove valuable to you, even if you don't want to write code. So let's skip the imports in this up here. Basically right here, from lines 20 to 22, we're checking to make sure that the number of arguments given is correct. So we have to run Python, the POC. We give it the URL of our Jenkins instance, and then the file we want to download. This is not quite the right way you show these arguments, but it's fine. This next 3 lines is pretty interesting. So we're going to take the @ symbol plus this the second argument passed in. So that's the file name. And we're going to make a string there. And that makes sense given what we just read, right? Because what that means is that's what's going to get blown out to be the contents of that file. So that's all going to get saved here. And then we have a length prefix here where we're basically packing, I don't remember what H is, but I'm going to guess maybe it's 4 bytes. We're packing this length of this into 4 bytes. And then we're adding that together where we're adding in this op-arg. So it's like the argument symbol as a byte, followed by the prefix, which is the length, and then the bytes. And this is a very standard serialized data in a binary protocol. You want to, hey, here's an object, here's the type it is, here's the length of that type, and then here's the data. And then you have something else come next. And you can see actually right here, we have something very similar where we have this nulls. Then right here, we have 6. Well, this actually, no, this looks like 4 bytes representing 6. Maybe that's end of standard in, I'm not sure. But then we have at least some bytes representing a 4 followed by help, which is 4 bytes. So that could be that length right there, followed by some more padding. Then we're going to put in the stuff that we just built up here. We don't have to understand this in great detail, but we can just tell it's building some kind of serialized thing. And that becomes data bytes, which then, if we skip down here, we'll skip these functions for a second. We start threads with function rec2 and rec1. We start those, and then we wait for them both to finish with the join, and we're done. So rec1 is going to connect using the download version, and it's going to print the response. And then rec2 is going to wait a short amount of time, and it's going to send in, this is where we actually include the data here as the body. And so presumably, I don't quite understand why we need to do this in 2 requests, but someone who's reverse engineered Jenkins and how it works clearly understands that's how this works, and it's going to get the response and print it out. And that's basically it. That's the POC. Nothing there I don't expect. It makes perfect sense. So let's go play with these. I guess we're going to start by let's get the CLI going. So we need to download the client. I'm going to grab this. And we will jump over to my VM where I have an instance of Jenkins here. And if we go to, let's do a wget 10.10.11.10.80/that, we are going to grab the CLI there. And now we'll do just like what they said, java-jar, Jenkins CLI. If we just run this, we get the usage. And we remember we need to do s 10.10.11.10.80, like that. And now it's printing just like that. We're not in tmux. Let's try this. Let's see. Let's grab this command. Tmux. Oops. It's a tmux. And I just like to be able to split my windows and stuff and scroll up this way. So it's printing all the commands out for us. One of the commands we can use is help, which will do something very similar. It's going to print all the stuff. But I can run help, and then I can run like who am I, the last command here, and it tells me, what it reports your credentials and permissions. I can get rid of the help and just run who am I. And we see I'm anonymous, which makes sense because I haven't authenticated to anything yet. So that's good. So what's the vulnerability here? Let's run help and do Etsy password. And you can see, if you ever looked at an Etsy password file before, we can look at mine. Head Etsy password. You can see this is the lines of Etsy password. So the first line right here is this root right here. The second line, daemon right here, match. So we're getting back the remote Etsy password. How do we know we're not getting mine? Well, you have to trust me for a second, but this isn't mine. This is theirs. They all start kind of the same. So we've read one line. That's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the POC. Let me grab that URL I had here. Come back up to the thing. We will code, copy, put you down. We will git, clone, and then that URL. And then it gets another one, right? If you're just getting started in this, you don't have to be an expert in Git and repo source code management, repos, things like that. You do have to be able to clone something off of GitHub and see that it's as simple as getting that URL, go ahead and git clone, and now we're going to go into that directory. And there it is. So we can do Python. Oops, we didn't want to actually go into Python. Let's see. POC.py. Now we need to run the 10.10.11.10.80.80 Etsy password. Let's see what we get back. And basically it's the same thing here. So it is showing us the binary stuff it's going to send over the request, and the response here, we get the same thing. It's actually slightly harder to read. So I actually prefer the jar in this case, and that's what we're going to work with going forward. So my thinking at this point, right? We've got a partial file read vulnerability. What we want is the ability to read more than one line. Or I guess 2 lines we're getting right now. And so let's play with different commands and see what would give us the most lines. And so let's see, if we start with something simple like, let's see, where were we? When we do help, we're going to start with that, and we can do that really simply. And let's get a list of all the commands, right? So if I want to then if I do this, java help enable access. Oh, let's go up a directory. There we go. So now we get all the commands there. So what I want to do is grep just the commands and not the descriptions. So I'm going to do a grep dash. I like this once I start doing like real regexes, I like to do -p to go into Perl style regexes. We'll do start of line, space, and then we can do non-white space characters, capital S. So anything that's not white space, plus, and then end of line, like that. And everything prints. And the reason everything prints is that's actually all going to standard error, not standard out. So what we need to do here is come over here and pipe this to standard pipe. So now standard error gets piped to standard out. And so now we can grep it. And you can see we get just the commands, which is nice. I actually want to get rid of this. It's actually not necessary, but these little spaces at the beginning kind of annoy me. So I'm going to do an awk. And this is, I didn't know this. I had to just Google this, but $1 equals $1. I got to get my laptop's getting in the way here. Like that. And then I put a :1 like that. And I believe that'll get it for me. Yeah, sweet. So now all those spaces are gone, right? Now I'm going to end up running this a lot of times and a lot more than I expected to. And each time it's kind of hang for a second. So what I'm actually going to do here is just go ahead and save this to like commands. So now if we look at commands, rather than having to run this and wait a second, we can just do cat commands and then into things from there. So my initial thought, and this is where I was like, okay, when we go from here, I'm going to do this once and be done, is I'm going to do while read command, do java-jar Jenkins thing -s http 10.10.11.10.80.80, and then I'll do command like that, and then I'll get etc password. And what this is going to do, in theory, with my other close here, is loop over all the commands, and for each one of them run this thing with etc password as the argument and print out what happens and show me, nice, okay, what happened? And so it does it the first time, and then it stops. It dies. And this, I am going into a rabbit hole right now. And this, I don't know how long this rabbit hole is going to take, but it might take a while. If this sounds boring to you and you don't care and you want to skip to the conclusion, there are timestamps in the video here, and you can just go click on the next one. But this bugs me. I don't like it. Something is crashing in here that's causing my loop to exit, right? And the first thing you do if you start searching for answers like this, what you're going to see is they say, oh, you want to make sure this is returning true. And so they say, just do an or true. So now when this returns some non-zero, non-success, then you do or true, then all of a sudden the whole thing becomes true and it'll continue. But that doesn't work. And then people, I put this in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT says, well, try continue. Because now you're going to say, do this, and when it fails, continue, which means go back to the start of the loop and keep going. Like, okay, cool, is that going to work? No, it doesn't work. I thought, man, am I even getting the commands right? Is there something like where I'm screwing this up somehow? And so, oops, let's put that there. And I thought, what if I just put an echo at the front, and does it loop then? Like, are we actually doing it? And boom, it does. So if we come back up here to the top, I might as well go full ahead and full screen this. If we go to the top, like, this is exactly what I want to run. I want to run each of these things. It is printing what I want to print, but it's just not running them. Which is just so weird, right? Let's see. So the next thing I thought is like, okay, what if we instead, we're not going to echo this, we are going to put this in quotes, the whole thing, and then we'll come here and we will do like a bin sh minus c, because now each time I'm saying start up a sh process, completely different than the bash process I'm in. Although I don't know if bash is different on my system. I should check that. But start up this different process and run this command and then come back. And it still crashes so hard that it kills this while loop. I should check. What is which sh? ls minus l user bin sh. It goes to dash versus bash. So if I do md5 sum user bin sh, user bin bash, they are different. So, I mean, presumably I'm starting an entirely different program and it's still failing. So it is crashing hard in some way. Okay, so what are we gonna try? What are we gonna try next? Well, at this point, I called up IPSec and I said, hey man, I got this weird thing coming on. And he jumped on, and we jumped on a huddle and started looking, and I showed him all the stuff. He asked a bunch of things, and I was like, yep, tried that. Here, let me show you this. Let me try that. And eventually he was like, all right, what if we just run an strace on it? So we jumped in there, and let's try that. So instead of coming up here, we will do strace. Now strace is going to basically show us all of the calls that are being made by this Java program, and we're gonna run this. And you can see we get down to here where it fails and it exits. And it exits with this futex thing. And I've never seen that. That's not something I'm familiar with. We didn't spend too long on it. I did a little reading about it after we hung up, and it is like a mutex thing that like multiple processes can't claim it at the same time, so it could cause some really serious crashes, I think at the kernel level, but I don't know how to change that, and I'm not sure what to do with it. So one thought I did have was like, what it could have just be that it's dying before, like trying to start the next process before that expires. And so I added like a sleep 1 here. But no, we still just exit. So that wasn't going to be helpful. One other thing that's really interesting, I did find it, and this is not helpful, but it was interesting. If I go back up here to here where I'm running it in bin sh, and I do strace on that, we will actually see, let's see, so that exits the same way, right? We still fail. if I come down here and then do or true, like we did try at the beginning, we are exiting with 0. So now, now we have this exiting with a success call. So this bash is actually exiting successfully, but we're still crashing out of our loop somehow. I can't explain this. This doesn't make any sense to me. But this, eventually we said, okay, what if we do this? We already know we've got all those commands that work, right? So we can come back here and we can say echo here. We don't need the or true. And we get all the commands, right? So forget, okay, fine. We're just gonna, and this was ip's idea, so I'm gonna call it ip.sh, and I run it into ip.sh. Now, this is weird, watch this. If I do bash ip.sh, it's working. It is going through each one, and it is doing exactly what I wanted to do. I'm gonna control, you can't just kill this because the way it's in a loop. So I'm gonna control Z and then kill %1 here. But that's more mind-blowing. Why the while loop doesn't work, but I can just run them all in sequence? The same commands? No idea. If you understand this bash, please reach out. I would love to know. Maybe we'll do a video explaining it. But I don't know. So this is the point now where I'm going to join people back in and say, okay, so we figured out a way to run lots of commands. And that is by having this, just running all the commands I want to run one by one. So what I don't want to do now is just run them. I mean, I guess I could just already, right here, we found at least one command that is printing what looks like many of the lines out. Interesting, like in a weird kind of order. But we can get 1, 2, 3. So that's progress. We're getting a lot of file data for sure. I want to go, let's find that loop where we wrote ip.sh. And for one, we need to know what command we're running. So we'll come here and we'll say echo command colon like that. And now if we look at .sh, we're going to run echo list plugins followed by that. So now we at least get to see that. So that's useful, but I want it to be nicer than that, right? So we're going to do, let's kill you. Okay. What else can we do? Well, what I really care about is I don't want to see all this out, but I just want to see what lines are captured, right? So what if we capture just this? So to do that, what we're going to do is come back up to our loop, and we're going to pipe, we're going to get command into etc password, and we're going to pipe, we need that inside the quotes here, pipe this into grep. We better do $2.1 just like we did before, so we're getting all the results. And now we want to grep for, and we'll do -op, O to just capture what we want, and P, the match, and P again for Perl. And that is going to be colon \D for any digit, more than, plus means more, one or more, colon, another digit, one or more, colon. And we'll pipe that to ip.sh, and we will bash it. And so now you can see, okay, cool. This command add job to view gets me one line. Whoa, that's good enough to kill it. Control Z, kill %1. And so now, we can see each command. This command gets one line. This command gets one line, one line, one line. But all of a sudden now here, connect node is getting me a bunch of lines. But I don't really care exactly about which lines. Maybe I do at some point want to see which lines it is, but what I really care about is how many lines it gets. So what I'm really going to do, you come up here, we're going to grep that. And we want to send that into, first of all, I don't care if I see the same line more than once. Like getting this line right here for, I don't need to see it twice. That's not useful. So we're going to do a sort -u, and that'll give us unique values. And then we can send that straight into word count -l, and that'll give us the number of values. In fact, if I'm going to do that, I can make this look even prettier, and I can do a -n here for no new line. I can put a % there, colon space, % like that, and now it'll print even nicer. See, and we run that, and it just gives me the number of lines I get out of each one. And that is about to where, as far as I got with this, where I can say, okay, this is pretty nice. So like connect node is definitely what I want to take a look at. Are there other ones coming down here that might be useful? Delete job might be interesting. Delete node might, delete view. And so maybe now I've got 3 or 4 that I can dig into and say, hey, those all show me 19. Are they the same 19 lines? Is it exactly 19 lines, or is it because there's 19 lines in this etc password and really giving me all the lines? So definitely some more research I could do, and maybe we could even write a script that knows which lines come from which commands and how we could pull together a handful of commands to get entire files. I don't know how complicated it gets from here, but I think what we need to go forward. The fact that I keep seeing 19 lines here is definitely interesting. So we'll probably check out some of those as we go forward. But yeah, that's as far as I've gotten with this, and it seems like a kind of fun thing to show. I will say one more time, if you're stuck, especially if you're stuck with me this whole time, if you understand what that bash, what's wrong with my bash loop, I would love to know. Please let me know, and you'll get a shout out from me at some point. So some point somewhere. Thank you so much for hanging out with me till the end. Hopefully you found this interesting, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.